What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video slash devlog slash tutorial, and this one is gonna be pretty much a tutorial. Um, so it's been a while since I'm trying to prototyping. I've been trying to prototype the live HUD and etc. I'm never happy with the results. Uh, but this one is a sort of result of that prototyping. It's all in blueprints just yet. That's how I prototype UI at least. I create everything in blueprints and then later just migrate everything to C++ with a couple optimizations and etc. So basically that's the main idea of this video. Um, so as you can see, this is just a simple UI right now, but the interesting stuff is that circular uh, progress bar over there. So as you can see, it goes clockwise or reverse if I wanted to, and it's decreasing based on my character stamina right now. So, which is pretty cool. And that's the main idea of this video, which is how to create different sort of uh, progress bars, and specifically a circular progress bar that can be used for either uh, any, for example, Breath of the Wild uses this type of circular bar to show stamina when the character is running or climbing a couple of the things. You can see that there's like this circular stamina bar on the Breath of the Wild. So this is not natively supported by any default primitive components on the UI. So basically what we got to do is create a material that's gonna do whatever we want to do in the UI level. So for this example, I have just a simple life uh, common. Let me just check where is the progress bar, which is basically this one. It's filling right to left. There's a couple percentages for an example. It's getting the life percent based on my character. Uh, but the idea is the style itself, as you can see, it's a stylized. It's pretty easy to stylize based on images or etc. And the same goes for the other progress bar, which is just for the mana points or the magic points, whatever you want to call it, which is basically the same thing. It's filling left or right. But this one is not a progress bar. As you can see, it's just an image, and it's pointing out to a material instance that I have created myself. Uh, and the reason for this is I don't have any circular progress bar by default that I can use it. That is, I haven't found like a pretty good one that could fit my desire right now. Probably I'm gonna increase that circular area a little bit so I can maybe put some sort of GPS point or something like that in the middle for maybe finding a couple, maybe like a radar or something to find the different items into the level or something like that. But that's something to be defined yet. And also, I'm going to create a couple slots at the top of it for the skills itself, similar to any regular RPG or something like that. But that's basically like a prototyping stuff. And as you can see, this material right here, uh, it's clockwise right now. But if I disable that, and start filling it up with the complete range, as you can see, it's filling in the reverse of whatever clockwise is. But if I enable that variable and start filling it up, let me just decrease, you can see that it fills up based on clockwise direction. So it's like a moving it like a clock. And that's actually pretty simple stuff to do. The starting point as well, you can specify like maybe you want to start from the middle instead of the beginning. So as you can see now, it starts from the middle, and there's a couple other parameters that you can specify here, but I just set it to 0.1, so it can start right at the beginning, almost at the beginning at least. The alpha as well is whenever you want to cut that into different presets. For example, if you go to God of War or any, at least the classic ones, I haven't played the new one, but in the classic ones, whenever you're grabbing a couple items through the level when you're fighting, you can increase or decrease your life bar, and there's like a pretty cool animation as well as part of it. But that's also pretty difficult to do with the default components, let's say. So what you could do is you can have like this alpha channel. Let's suppose you want to, for example, Breath of the Wild as well. It starts with a pretty low stamina bar. So let's suppose I want to start this way. So it's only like a quarter of whatever it is. So you can later fill up based on those quarter values. So As you can see now, once set is at 1, it's filled up as a quarter of whatever that bar should be. And if I filled up more, then it's going to complete it. But as you can see, then it's a matter of manipulating this value over here. If you want to maybe half of that bar, then you could have half of it, and you can manipulate the complete range value to half or even more or something like that. So this way you can accomplish a more dynamic progress bar with this simple material. And if you leave it at 1, it's going to be like the full circle, basically. All right, so how do we do that, basically? Also, you can specify different colors, but I don't think anyone would like that. But anyways, you can specify like the bar color and the background one. So let's suppose I want a red bar, and then I complete range is going to fill it up as red, but that's not the point, I think. So how do I make this material to start with, to begin with? So first of all, this is an instance. So first of all, you're going to need to create a regular material. So any material that way, and I call my circular progress bar just to make it easier. You don't have to have this background color. I put it just because I want like a color to start. But if you want to plug that back in into directed to the opacity, that should work as well. The only difference is it's not going to start with any color. So whenever it's unfilled, it's going to be black or transparent, etc. So first of all, you're going to go to your material and set the domain to user interface and to be translucent. So it can be used on any UI. The translucent allows us to have this opacity node over here, so you can either fill it up with a transparent or fill it up with data afterward. The color, I specify like a parameter called bar color, and I set that to be default to to white itself. So it starts as white, but if I specify a different color later, I can change. It's just a matter of parameter color. Oops, my caps is turned on. So let me just press the number 3, collect it, and then convert that to a parameter, and I just call it bar color. So that's start, and then the opacity is where all the magic happens. So let's go really back, and there's no image, there's no Photoshop, there's nothing in here other than just Unreal nodes, which is pretty cool, and allows us to manipulate everything somehow like programmatically instead of having to rely on images or any Photoshop. So I started with the texture coordinate, which is just like texture coordinate. Oops. There we go. This texture coordinate over, my mouse is just clipping. There we go. Texture coordinate. Okay. And then I put this as is, and I leave that by default. So I started with that one. And then I specify a bias scale so I can go from black to whatever value I want to go to. So I specify a couple intervals. So minus half, it's this black color over here. And the 2, it's going to be this greenish color over here. So it travels back between those areas. And then I I call this custom rotator because I want to, rotate the whole thing. The parameter, like the center, is going to be 0. If you want to have like a different center, just specify a different parameter. You can play around with this as well, convert that to a parameter to later play around with. And also I specify a starting point. So when it's gonna start to fill it up, so I let the default value to 0, so it's empty by default. But then you can see that on my circular material, I specified the starting point to be 0.0.1. So it's gonna start, because let me just actually show that. Let me just leave it as 0, and I hit play. Oh, it's not showing now. But anyways, if I specify, for example, start point to 0.5, and I start filling it up, you can see that it changes when it's going to start filling it up based on the complete range parameter. So basically, it's specifying on the circle where it's going to start to fill that progress bar. So the 0, it's going to be the initial point right at the top here. Half is going to be in the middle point. 25 is going to be there. And so far, so forth. Okay, so that's the starting point. I set that to 0. I added a I added a 0.25, as a constant to the angle, so it can rotate on the angle of the circle. And then I specified that to a radial value, so it can become like a radial UV. And then I grab the angle itself, which is the converted angle, specify that to apply it on 1 minus to it, and I create this clockwise parameter, which is switch parameter, static switch parameter. That's the one. I call it clockwise. So this parameter basically is going to do, if it's true, it's going to grab that angle, multiply it by -1, and invert it the direction to fill the circle. If it's false, it's going to use the default one. So if you go to the material instance, if I have clockwise enabled, it starts filling up in the clock direction. If I had that disabled, it flips it to the opposite direction to start filling up. So it's a matter of preference. I just left that as a parameter so you can override later on. And then I had this add node, put that clockwise into the B, and then the complete range and the alpha channel is basically, and they're multiplying itself. Basically, the complete range is is how far, like what is the progress of that progress bar. So as you can see, the complete range is this parameter over here. So if I have like that to 0, it's empty. If I have that to 0.5, which is 50%, it's half filled, and etc., etc., etc. The alpha channel, on the other hand, is controlling whether I'm going to show that or not. How much am I allowing the player to see? So if I specify that half of the bar is actually filled, but it only showed up 25%, as you can see, it's only going to show 25%. It's not going to show everything on that half. So now the half of the complete range, let me just go to the 1. The complete range now, it's 1, but it's 1 on the circle cut it by 4. So it's just the small piece over here. So it controls whether this complete range is going to behave that way. So 1 now, it's the complete circle with the alpha at a quarter of it. It's this one, but if I change the alpha now to half, for example, now the complete circle, the complete range as a 1, as half of the circle, and etc., etc., etc. So basically, those manipulate how big is going to be my circle. So this can be used, for example, if you want to later upgrade your character property along the game, and you can then maybe create an animation later on the UI level or something like that to just show that bar filling up or something like that, which would be pretty cool as well. Um, so yeah, basically those control this way, and then I add that to my radial angle here. I created a floor just so I can limit the amount of results, and then I multiply that to my actual. I mean, this is the angle how it's gonna behave, but it needs to behave into like this whole Gigamo needs to behave inside of a form or a primitive component, like for example a circle, a square. What's this calculus gonna do? So I multiply that to my calculus, which is my circle, as you can see here, as the final result. But how do I create this circle? There's no image, there's nothing in it. You can just use an image if you wanted to, but I rather not use Photoshop or anything of the sort because I'm just terrible at it. So basically what I did, I create this radial gradient exponential, which is also a node into the material editor. And the radius is going to be half. And I was starting to play around to see what would be better. The density is going to be 1. Later I grabbed this exponential radius. And also the radius is going to be the same as the previous one. But the invert density is going to be set to default by true. But you can later override that. Oh, it doesn't have the option to. So basically, I create this radial gradient exponential. So the radius is going to be half, which is the center. The density is going to be 1, but the density on the second one, I'm going to invert the density. And then I'm going to subtract that. And the result, as you can see, is already like a circle already. But I'm multiplying that to make that circle even visibler. I'm not sure if that word actually exists, but more visible to the human eye. So as you can see, if I left that way, it would have like a circle already, but it's pretty uh, translucent, I'd say. So if I multiply that by 100, or for example 1,000, it's gonna be even more visible, as you can see. So 1,000, we bring like a really strong circle. So if I start to fill it up, but that's a matter of preference. I left that as 100 because it was okay. I like this to have this somehow alpha background or something like that. So I can later start playing and my complete range is gonna be either between 1 and 2, and I can have this sensation of whether I am with stamina empty, which would be the complete range as 1. It's empty because it's this grayish color, and the full one, which is my full stamina, is going to be 2, so it's a lot brighter than the first one. And anything in between that is going to be looking like this. So that's the main idea of this, being this way. So let me just leave it back this way, save it, and there we go. Okay, and then I have already my circle, plug that into my multiply. By this far, you could already like leave that into the opacity. You can just like put this way already. You wouldn't need that like any other stuff like this. But I I like to have, for example, instead of like this alpha channel or something like that, I don't want the circle to disappear as I am filling that up. So basically what I did, I set up like a background color to it. So multiplying that by a somehow darker gray or darker white, if that can be called, so I can have this background color this way, instead of having just the biggest, like brightest white, which is the base color. So by doing so, what I have is this material, which I can create an instance of by creating a material instance, which is basically what I did here. And then I can manipulate my properties down there, so I can either check that the clockwise, complete range, and etc. And I can manipulate these parameters at the programming level, so I start to fill it up that uh, progress bar somehow through code, basically. And this is a prototype. I'm not gonna do this way into the final product. So basically what I did, it did like only tick right now, but probably I'm gonna create like a function to not, always casting or anything of the sort. But basically what I did is on the tech event right now, uh, if you want to check like how I did the other ones, it's just like get live percent. I'm just grabbing whatever is the reference to it. And casting, I'm not going to do that all the time. I'm just going to do that once at the constructor, once I migrate everything to C++. And I'm clamping the values and put that uh, as the progress bar. And in the same way, I need to do that for my image here. So I basically drop an image, and the material of that image is going to be this mi circle progress bar, which is that material instance there and there. And if I go to the tech right now, I'm grabbing the dynamic material of that profile pic, which is basically this material instance progress bar, and I am setting this scalar parameter value called complete range, which is this one. It's a starting rate 1. And on tech, I'm setting that to whatever is my character stamina divided by my max stamina, clamping between values of 0 and 1, which is like 0% and 100% basically. And then I'm adding 1, so it can be always between 1 and 2. So if it's 0.5, which is 50%, it's going to be 1.5. If it's 100%, it's going to be 2, because it's going to be 1 plus 1. And what's that? Because I wanted that to be started at 1, so I can have this darkish color in the background. And as it started to fill it up, it's going to be looking something like this. And it's going to be 2. Once it's 2, it's going to be this. If it's 50%, 1.5, it's going to be look like this, and etc., etc., etc. So that's how I did it. And that's just a prototype. I'm going to migrate everything to C++ later. Probably going to create like a function inside of my character to just update the value and just pass that as a reference to the C++ UI level class. So I don't have to do that at every single frame or anything. So this is just a prototype. But basically what that creates is this circular progress bar somehow. And if I pick it up, like for example, a couple items, let me just pick it up, another item right here. And now I have another item. And if I start to decrease my stamina by either using that dodge event, as you can see now, it's starting to fill it up. And as it recovers the stamina automatically, it's going to also fill it up that way. And if I keep rolling or punching and etc., my stamina feedback is exactly what I want that to be. And the same goes for the progress bars. So yeah, that's more of a tutorial and of a talk of me prototyping stuff. That's not the final design. I'm probably gonna tweak that a little bit. Still have to add like a bunch of uh, slots for the skills itself, but it's a pretty good start, I'd say. So yeah, hope you like it. I hope that's useful to y'all.